Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here and I'm back with another review. And this time I saw Once Upon a Time in Mexico, the final in the El Mariachi trilogy. It's a 2000 a action western film directed by Robert Rodriguez from 2003, and it stars Antonio Banderas, Johnny Depp, Cheech Marin, Salma Hayek, Mickey Rourke, Willem Dafoe, Eva Mendes, Danny Trejo, Ruben Blades, Enrique Iglesias, and Marco Leonardi. In this film, hitman El Mariachi becomes involved in international espionage involving a psychotic CIA agent and a corrupt Mexican general. So, what did I think of Once Upon a Time in Mexico? Okay, so 100% spoiler review. Spoilers. Because I have to talk about this mess of a movie. I still liked it though. I still like it. It's nowhere near as good as Desperado, but I still enjoyed it to an extent. It's a big mishmash. It kind of feels like Tarantino trying to, or it kind of feels like Rodriguez here is trying to copy Tarantino in a way. I'll get to that. And he ends up kind of making El Mariachi not the main character in many scenes and many parts of the film. But I still enjoyed it for what it was. It built off of the last film a bit pretty well, I think. And yeah, I just have to get into it, but let me get to the cast. Antonio Banderas plays El Mariachi. He still plays it very well, not as good as in the last film due to certain things with the plot, which I will get to. Um, but uh, I still think he plays the character well. He still is great in the action scenes. Johnny Depp plays Sands. He's a corrupt CIA agent who's uh, basically got a pretty loose trigger finger, if you or a pretty he's willing to shoot anybody, kind of. Johnny Depp does a great job here. I think he's an interesting addition to the cast. Probably part of why the budget is a lot bigger than the last film. Um, I really enjoyed what he did here. It was kind of a Tarantino performance in a Robert Rodriguez film. Cheech Marin plays Bellini. He's an information guy for Sands. He's fine. Salma Hayek plays Carolina again. She's in the film possibly about 7 minutes, maybe. Um, I still liked her a couple scenes though. Mickey Rourke plays Billy, kind of a wasted character. Um, and not really in the movie that much. And because it's Mickey Rourke in the 2000s, he has his dog at the time in scenes. He's fine. His performance isn't bad. Willem Dafoe plays Barrio, a crime boss who killed uh Jorge, who is Ruben Blades' character, his partner or something. So there's another revenge subplot. He's fine in the film. Eva Mendes plays Adreyes, Ajedre, something like that. I can't pronounce it. I like Eva Mendes, but again, she's ultimately wasted. She's supposed to be this big twist character, but none of it really makes much sense. Danny Trejo plays Kukui. He's fine. He's not in the film too much. Ruben Blades plays Jorge. He's really good in the film. He's one of the standouts. Um, on the list of the cast, it's with him and Willem Dafoe, and he's again one of the best parts of it. Enrique Iglesias plays Lorenzo, who's one of El Mariachi's friends that comes to help him at the end of the film or throughout the film. Uh, I think he's not bad. He doesn't really do a lot. I think that's part of it is that I don't have a lot to go on because this film is overstuffed with characters. But I don't mind Enrique Iglesias being in the film at all. This is pretty much the only movie he ever was in acting wise, which he wasn't bad. Again, Marco Leonardi plays Fideo. He's another one of El Mariachi's friends. He's kind of just the drunk character, not much to him. and Pedro Armendariz Jr. as El Presidente. I thought he did a fine job. One thing I will say against this film right off the bat, it is overstuffed with characters. There's a subplot with Sans about this like woman that I think he's in love with who works with the police. There's a subplot about Ruben Bloods where he's getting revenge for his partner being killed, which kind of just comes out of nowhere when he's introduced. There's El Mariachi's main plot technically is that Carolina was killed by this random general that we've never seen before. Um, and apparently their kid too because she was pregnant. Um, s- and again, it just feels very messy. I feel like Salma Hayek was supposed to be in more of the film, but she just wasn't for like scheduling. Maybe she was working on another movie at this time. I didn't really look that up. Um, fucking and she's like on the poster second build. That's one big thing. Salma Hayek is in like less than 7 minutes of this movie and she's second build. That's fucking lame. Cause I was looking forward to Al Mayachi and Carolina like working together because she showed that she could be a real badass in some parts of the last film. And I was like, that actually sets this apart from a lot of other action films of the time that you have this female character that, yes, while she's terrified, she's still able to defend herself in many circumstances. And again, she had some badass moments. And in this, she has a couple in some flashbacks, and they have a couple action scenes in flashbacks. But still, it's very like it's annoying that she's not in more of the movie, and the revenge subplot in this is very weak. Kind of like the last film, where it was kind of just like they made up this character so that he could still go after him, and then there's the revelation about him and the villain. But in this one, it's like it just literally comes out of nowhere, and yeah, it's just kind of weak. But there's too many subplots in this film. Uh, that's one big thing I can say is that it feels like Robert Rodriguez is trying to do a Tarantino film where there's all these interconnected plots. In a way, it feels like this series version of John Wick Chapter 4, where the main character becomes kind of a side character in a lot of situations because they're trying to build up these characters for spin-offs. And I don't know if that's what the case was here, but this is an hour and 42-minute film. There is not a lot of extra time for subplots, and it just ends up kind of feeling like you've overstuffed the film when you already have a very interesting main character in El Mariachi, to the point where you don't have to overstuff it to make the film feel like it's more complex. And to that point, the film does become a bit messy in many of the subplots, because the only subplot that I actually really gave a shit about was the one with Ruben Blades, whatever, however you say his name. I've never heard of this actor, but apparently a lot of people uh really liked him. Uh Apparently he was in Predator 2, Counselor, Color of Night, Devil's Own. I'm guessing he's a like character actor, but I did like him, and his subplot was actually pretty interesting, like helping Ricky. That's another one. Mickey Rourke's character he's originally going to kill him, Ruben Blades' character, and he instead ends up using him to get closer to Willem Dafoe's character because he wants out. He's gonna try to extradite him to America to actually pay for his crimes in America. Um, that like again, Ruben Blades' character is really the only one I give a shit about, other outside of El Mariachi, because a lot of the subplots fall very flat. They feel very like whatever. They feel like filler, kind of. Like the scenes with Ava Mendes. I love Ava Mendes as an actress, and I think she's very gorgeous in this film. But ultimately, she's kind of useless and kind of just wasted. Willem Dafoe doesn't really bring anything extra to the film. Uh, Mickey Rourke, he's doing something, but he's also not much. And it's a bit sad. But all of the stuff involving El Mariachi in this film is awesome. The action scenes are very impactful, very fun, just like the last film. I will say I I won't say any of it is as well done as in the last film, the bar scene especially, but there's some nice explosions, there's some nice stunt work involved, especially the bit with Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas escaping from this hotel while they're chained to each other. Um, and they're like falling down this thing. They're like kind of chained together, and one of them will fall, and while the other's hanging onto something, they'll hang on to something, and then the other person will fall. Very fun sequence. Um, and then they fall onto this bus while they're getting shot at. Salma Hayek has a badass moment where she's telling the driver to to stop the bus, and then he jumps out of the bus, and then the bus ends up hitting a tanker, and they jump off of the bus as like an explosion's behind them. A lot of fun. Reminded me of that bit in the last film when the bookstore explodes behind them. Um, that was, or there's that fire behind them and all that. Um, no wait, yeah, that is what happened. Um, there's the shootout in the church. That's a lot of fun. And apparently the fake guns that they're using in that scene were rubber guns that they used CG to add in muzzle flashes and him pulling the trigger and all the sparks and shit. Um, that's insane because it looked really good. There's a lot of nice destruction of the benches and everything, the pews. Um, a lot of nice acrobatics from Antonio Banderas. There's a car chase where, there's like a chase where he's like in the middle of this town square, and Danny Trejo's men are trying to fight him off and everything, and he starts like shooting up the stand, and there's fruit going everywhere. I love shit like this when there's interacting with the environments of a gunfight where the environment of the gunfight is going on and becomes its own thing, and there's a lot of personality. Um, there's he he ends up like there's like a bunch of uh people on motorcycles chasing after him, and he spins his car around and like sends them flying. Apparently that was CGI. It looked pretty good. Um, there's the inside of the government building as they're protecting the president. Like there's a lot of pretty much everything having to do with El Mariachi, aside from Salma Hayek dying off screen and or dying in flashback. I'm not a fan of that. I wish Carolina had been in the film. If they're gonna do that, I wish she would have died like halfway through the film, like, and let her be a bit more of a badass. I will say this did it better than fucking John Wick Chapter 4 did, or fucking No Time to Die, or any of those other legacy sequels that like completely took shits on characters and didn't give them anything to do before they died. I hate when that movies do that shit. At least here you get to see her have a fight scene or two or an action scene or two, and you get to see her being a badass to an extent. I do wish she was fighting alongside him though. Um but yeah, again, I'd say El Mariachi's scenes take up maybe half of the film because a lot of the rest of the film is these subplots that I really don't give a shit about. The only two subplots I care about are Johnny Depp's, because Johnny Depp is a lot of fun in this. It he kind of feels like a Tarantino character, as did Steve Buscemi's character in the last film. But he's a lot of fun to watch. All of the scenes are awesome. There's about halfway through the film he loses his eyes, and he has this like kid that he gave money for chiclets earlier, helping guiding him around so that he can get to this building. And he does end up shooting a couple people by using his ears, which was pretty cool. I thought it was an interesting change of pace. And it just made me wish that I had an actual movie of Johnny Depp playing this character who goes blind like halfway through and has to basically become a blind gunman. I think that could have been an interesting movie in its own. Maybe this was a bunch of like little tiny scripts that Robert Rodriguez had an idea for, and he just had no way to really put it together. Robert Rodriguez himself apparently said that this was supposed to be his good, bad, and the ugly of the trilogy, even though the first two don't feel anything like Fistful of Dollars and uh, for a few dollars more. Um, it's just kind of weird to say that. Why would you make your main character like a secondary character in the third movie, the big finale of this series? But yeah, I still it's still weird. But um, yeah, I liked Johnny Depp's character and I liked Ruben Blades' character. I thought they were actually interesting. Their side plots were still cool. Um, again, Ava Mendes and a lot of these other people just feel kind of wasted. Willem Dafoe, Enrique Iglesias, even when the two mariachi friends come into play, they're their own mariachi shtick is a bit less interesting than Carlos Gallardo and the other guy in the last film, where there they had like one of them had a rocket launcher in his guitar case, which was really cool, and one of them had like Mac 10s in his cases that he just like can start shooting them by holding up down a button. That was fucking cool. In this, it's Enrique Iglesias has a flamethrower, which that's not gonna do much good, and he doesn't really do a lot with it. Um, and the other guy has it has like wheels on the bottom so he can like use an RC thing to like put it under he puts it under a truck and explodes it and then they're running away. And then they don't really do a lot in the final showdown. It's mostly El Mariachi and then uh Ruben Blades. But again, I still enjoy pretty much everything having to do with El Mariachi. I do think that by having Carolina get killed in the in flashback, you do kind of take away from Antonio Banderas' performance because even though this is around the time he did The Legend of Zorro, I think A Legend of Zorro was 90 or 2005. This is 2003. Um, and in that film, they basically turned Zorro into a drunken piece of shit. Uh, and then had him be fun at the end, which I've always hated The Legend of Zorro. I love The Mask of Zorro. It's a fantastic action film. But in here, I won't say they did it that bad. He's not a drunk. But he is a lot less fun. He doesn't have that like same infectious energy that he did in Desperado, which is a bit missing. And I do wish that Carolina was alive so that he could still have that energetic feel. But overall, there is a lot to like here. The action where it is very well done, very bloody. There's a couple noticeable CG blood spurts near the end having to do with Johnny Depp. One that looks really fucking awful. I will say that's not great, but pretty much all the CGI that I knew was there after looking through some like special features looked pretty convincing. Didn't stick out really at all, especially in the gunfights. The gunfights are a lot of fun, like they were in the last film. Uh, the frickin' again, the acting all around the board is pretty great. Um, even if I do feel some of these actors are wasted here, I do still think it's pretty fun. Still, they're well cast, well done. Um, the set design or the buildings that they're using for sets are beautiful. The chapel or the church, the government building was really cool to see. Uh, again, I love that the action interacted with the environment. I love seeing shit get torn to pieces by guns and grenades. Um, the score by Robert Rodriguez was fantastic, actually. It's just a damn good score. The scores of Desperado in this easily beat out El Mariachi. I still think this is better than El Mariachi as a film. Uh, Even though this is a mess, I do. And um and again, it was nice to see Antonio Banderas return as this character. I don't know who else could play this character even nowadays, but yeah. Do I think this is a massive mess? Yes. But did I still find it very entertaining? Yeah. I I I was kind of like close to giving it a 7 at times, but I do think that this film is a lot of fun, even if the villain here is, that's another thing. The villain here is kind of meh, like in the first one, but still, I really enjoyed it, and hopefully, ma- I mean, I'm not gonna say I want a remake, but there is an El Mariachi show. Apparently, people like it. I'm curious to see what it would do with the story, but I don't know if I'll review that just yet. But yeah, that was my review of Once Upon a Time in Mexico. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door, out.